Welcome to the Heart for God podcast. With many years of experience pastoring and helping to start churches, Dr. Jim Townsley has some practical and biblical advice that can be a great help to you and your ministry. On this podcast, Dr. Townsley and other guests with special expertise cover a variety of topics. His goal is to help you lead your church to be a healthy, strong, and balanced ministry, and for your family to be happy, healthy, and living for the Lord.
Welcome. Thanks for joining the podcast today. With me, Dr. David Blaser. And Brother Blaser was instrumental in helping us start New England Baptist College and was with us for several years, 12 years, is that right?
Yes.
12 years, and he's had a lot of experience in a lot of various places. They've been in Texas, Oklahoma, they're in Tennessee, but he has a lot of information and knowledge about Christian education, and we're going to talk a little bit about Christian education, but he's here for sort of celebrating our 50th anniversary. So it's good to have you with us.
Well, it's good to be here, and we love this place, and the church, been here 50 years. Pastor's been here 50 years. What a great accomplishment that is. And so good to be here to help them celebrate a little bit and more celebration on through the year.
So you've pastored churches and you started Christian schools and principals in Christian schools. And so you have a lot of experience. And I'd like to ask some questions, and I think some people be interested in this, sort of some thoughts about Christian education. When the Christian schools started back, they started probably in the 50s, but mostly in the 60s and 70s when they really grew. But there were some issues. The state didn't want this to have these schools.
No, they decided that only public schools or state-operated schools were schools. And that if anyone had a private school, unless they were approved by the state, they were listed as not being schools. And so I knew many men that were put in jail across the country only because they had their children in a Christian school. And they spent days in jail for that reason. And so we had to fight a battle. Back in the really in the 70s was the kind of the culmination point.
So it was touch and go. I mean, it was. There were people who paid a price to be able to keep those schools started.
I'm originally from Ohio, and in Ohio, it seemed like it kind of came to a melting point. The state of Ohio attacked a little Christian school in Canal, Winchester, I think it was, Ohio, a small little town. And Levi Wisner was the pastor, and he just said, "We're going to have school." Mm-hmm. Well, the welfare department came in and filed suit against them. And in the lower courts, the lower courts won, said according to the state statutes, they weren't a school. Eventually, they got it all the way to the state Supreme Court, Ohio State Supreme Court. And when they got to there, they considered it as a constitutional issue. The lower courts just looked at the statutes they had. They weren't determining whether they were constitutional or not. But when they got to the Supreme Court, they looked at it constitutionally, and they said, "You all don't have a case," and threw it out. Uh-huh. And that opened the door across the country for us to just, according to our conscience, educate our children the way we see fit. And so if we're Christians, we feel like we need to have the Bible. Another issue, of course, was in the 60s, they voted various places to take the Bible out of schools. And that really started thoughts of people to say, well, if you're not going to allow the Bible in school, then we'll just teach our own children. according to a biblical philosophy, a biblical worldview. And so that's where we are today. And it's been a great blessing. It's been 50 years at least or more. And today we start Christian schools. There's no commotion about it. We just have the right in America to train our children as God leads us.
As I remember, I think there was also the issue of busing, particularly in Florida, that they're moving students around from the inner city into the suburbs, and they're at different levels academically, and there were people really upset, and I think that motivated some people too.
Yes, well, there was a lot of that, and even today, I'm in Tennessee right now, and I just saw a evaluation of the students in Tennessee. This is all the students in Tennessee, and said that 81% of the 8th graders in Tennessee are not up to grade level in math and reading. Now that's a tremendous challenge. We do a lot of things, so many things other than reading, writing, arithmetic. So our great cry in those early days of Christian schools was back to basics. If you can read, you can learn anything. If you can't read, you can't learn much of anything. And so reading is critical, and yet not very emphasized when they have so many other things. And it's not necessarily the teacher's fault. They just bring in so many requirements for the classroom that they don't have time to teach the basics, and which is what really they're there for. And so the results are not good, and really across America. We're like something in the 40s as far as the rating of countries in our educational system. That means 40 countries around the world are doing a better job than we are in America. Well, that's a sad thing with all the great opportunities we have in America, the standard of living. We should be first, and yet we're not. And so attempts to change that have not really been effective. Maybe something can be done in these next few years.
Well, it's certainly a shame. I think some public schools are probably better than others, but underlying is a humanistic philosophy that's very subtle. A lot of people don't realize that worldly philosophy. And now we've got, in the last 15 or so years, this woke ideology, the transgender emphasis, and I mean, it's really become a problem in our public schools. Very, very difficult for Christian people to put their children in a public school. Some cases, maybe they can do it, but boy, you really leave your kids vulnerable.
Of course, there are good teachers everywhere, and teachers with heart, and want the best for their students. But they are handicapped with a lot of paperwork regulations, and we understand that. But we have chosen in our area to put our children in our own schools at great expense. Parents pay the tuition, sacrifice to put their kids in school. Not an easy thing for them to add to their budget. And teachers teach with limited resources and limited salary, but they teach from the heart, and they're not limited with what they can do. And so we see that happening in our schools. It's just a wonderful thing.
So the Christian school has been a godsend. It's been a blessing, but it's not without drawbacks also. There are some shortcomings. I don't know that I had this idea, but I keep hearing others thought, well, we're going to have this a group of young people to go out and serve the Lord. We'll be training all these people. And I think that may have been a misconception from the beginning. What are your thoughts about that?
I heard it said back in the 70s, the leaders of Christian education, I was just getting into it. I wasn't a leader, but I listened to these men, and they really had that opinion. They said, look, when we put all of our kids in our churches in Christian school, and they hear the Bible every day and taught with Christian teachers and Christian curriculum, surely they're all going to serve God, go to be missionaries and pastors across the country, and we won't have anybody left in our church. Actually, it was said, I heard it said, that hasn't happened. God calls individuals wherever they are. And we just give our young people an opportunity to make that decision. And we need more workers. Yet this economy we have, the society we have today in America is so open. And with that comes so many diversions to our young people, even our Christian young people. They are diverted from focusing on what it is God would have them to do. I used to ask young people, what do you want to do when you graduate? I guess everybody asks seniors that question. What are you going to do when you graduate? And they come up with some ideas, and that's okay. But really the question shouldn't be what do you want to do? It's what God wants you to do. And it's hard for a young person, 18 years old, 17, 18, to really make that decision to say, I'm going to do what God wants me to do when there's so many avenues open to them and so many ways of making lots of money these days. And so the economy and society sometimes overrules a young person's direction of their life.
Well, I think that, and I felt this way from the beginning, that the home and the guidance of the parents is far more instrumental than the Christian school. That's not the Christian school's job, but and the church, to be in a fundamental local church, that really supports the family. I think that's still the key for young people, to find the will of God, surrender, yield themselves to go into ministry and so on. So the school doesn't take the place, and I think they misunderstand the role of the Christian school if they think that's going to happen. But the other question I want to bring up is about homeschooling. In our lifetime, we saw that come out of nowhere, and it's become a big business, and a lot of people homeschool. What are your thoughts about the homeschooling movement?
Of course, parents have the right to do that, and many do a really good job. Some are not qualified. Some don't really have time to do that, and sometimes it doesn't get accomplished. But they have certainly the right to do it. But there's other things to learn in school. The idea of working with other young people and socially adapting and those kind of things. We've always said that good parents always made our classrooms better. And so it's important to have those young people in our classrooms because not every parent understands that. A lot of them have no time really with their children. They both work, and which is almost an essential these days. And the teacher ends up spending more time with these students than sometimes their parents do. And so that's not always a good thing. But homeschools are really across the nation, and they work hard at it. It is a hard job, especially if you have several children. That means you're a teacher for several grades, and a lot of preparation and a lot of curriculum. But some do a really wonderful job. and yet some others really struggle with it, of course. But we're supportive of parents as they teach their children.
So it's really not for everybody. I mean, a parent is now becoming a teacher, and they're really a full-time teacher, even though they have 1 or 2 or 4 or 5 children. And if they don't really educate their children, they're shortchanging their children. And if they have a Christian school, it'd be so much better socially for them to have that experience of being among other students. And sometimes I've seen homeschool students are so isolated, they feel like they're the only ones that are any good. They look down on everybody else, and and this is something I cannot figure out. If there's somebody listening to this podcast and you have an answer, if Brother Blaser, you have an answer, parents will isolate their children from sometimes even the church youth group, from any activities going on, homeschool them. They're not in public school, and they finish their schooling and they go to a state university. Can you explain that to me? What are people thinking?
Well, I've seen it many times happen, and parents should know better than that, but I don't think they understand the extent of what the persuasion is in our state universities. Giving that kind of a philosophy of life is contrary. But no, Pastor, I don't have an answer for it. I don't. Even those sometimes who've gone through Christian education, graduated from our Christian schools, and then they choose not to put their children in Christian school, just another generation, and they don't make that sacrifice. Usually it's a financial decision, and it's worth the sacrifice for your children. And so that's what we do. But no, I don't understand those things. If a church has a Christian school and you're a member of that church, there are reasons why you should support that Christian school. If you don't put your children in the Christian school, then you're making it more difficult for other people to have a school. It takes many students to really support that whole ministry. And if you take away half the kids that are possible to be there, then it limits what that school can do. And so if you're a member of a church, we ought to do what the church does. And that's just what I would say. Now, I don't tell people what to do. They have to make their own decisions, but that would be something. If they asked me, I would tell them there's reasons. Yes, you can homeschool your kids. That's your prerogative. But there's other reasons. You have other people who can't teach their kids, and you can support them and help them. It's a ministry, just like the church is. We have Sunday school classes for everybody, and so everybody can come in, but they all don't pay the bill. They don't maybe give anything in the offering, so our offerings go to them. Well, same thing in a Christian school. And so it's very important to support the ministry where you find yourself.
Well, I wish we had more time to delve into some of these issues more, but we've scratched the surface and we've probably offended a few people already. So, but, I guess I'm an expert at my opinion, those are our opinions. But, we have a lot of experience. This is not some new thing, and we've both been in Christian education for a long, long time. So I understand there's weaknesses everywhere. But the last point I want to make is, if you isolate your children from everything, they never learn how to react to issues in life. And you have to teach them gradually to become responsible and to be able to determine who should be friends, my friends, who should Is this right? Is that wrong? I call it responsible independence. So really, you've got to train them little by little. And if they are isolated forever and then they go out in the world and they've not become responsible, boy, it's a dangerous place for them to be. So we want to see them thriving. We want to see them living for God and serving the Lord. So if you still have children at home, you need God's wisdom, and certainly we have to keep on our knees praying that God will help us to train them the right way. Well, thank you for being with me this morning.
Well, thank you for having me.
God bless. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, consider sharing it with a friend. You can also follow at Dr. Townsley on Twitter or on Facebook at Jim Townsley.